Hello everyone, welcome back to Naomi's Bookshelf. Today we're going to be doing a new video series on my channel. So I'm hoping to start this series where I look over my quarterly reading, at least because I noticed that this quarter I read a lot and I feel like it's going to be a little drastic if I go over it all at once. So at the end of the year, I mean. So I was thinking this might be the best way to do it. I'm going to do a screen recording here and I'll just talk you through the books I read, the stats I read. I'm going to use StoryGraph for this because this is something that I find really effective. Because like I said, I read a lot of books. I read 83 books this year so far. And I don't know where that number came from. I was clearly a reading machine in January and February. March was not an amazing month, but I read like 20 books. A lot of them are short, a lot of them are middle grade, and we're going to look at those kind of stats too. So that's kind of where I'm wanting to go with this kind of video series. Just take a look at each month so it's not so bad. I will have monthly wrap-ups still, but I want to do my quarterly wrap-ups so you can look at a more specific, I don't know, where I'm at per month kind of idea or per quarter, if that makes sense. I hope that you enjoy these videos. I'm kind of nerdy like this, so that's kind of what I wanted to do. And I hope that you enjoy these and stick around for them. So we'll start off with this one. So looking at my StoryGraph screen, I have here just the main starting point where I've read 83 books, which is 33% of my goal. I have upped it to 250. I noticed that I was actively hitting that 150 goal pretty quick. So I was like, I'm gonna up it. And then I went my goal up to 700 pages, 700? I always make these mistakes. 70,000 pages read for the year because I figured that'd be a bit more challenging instead of just being really beatable. So I am 27% of the way to that goal. When we go down to what I have been reading content-wise, you can see the pie graph here. It's really kind of a little bit more mysterious. I read a lot of mysteries so far this year, which is my kind of go-to genre typically, which I think is why I burnt out for March Mystery Madness. I think I just read too many mysteries comparatively in the first 2 months than I should have, just to pace myself out. Then I have a lot of adventure stories and a lot of reflective books and a lot of everything really. I've read a lot of medium-paced books, as you can see as well, from the pacing and from my slow books. That's more than my fast books, so I don't know why. That's just the way they've been picking. Then in regards to page number, I've only read 4% of them over 500 pages. I'm not sure why that is, but we can check on what they are. Only 3 of them are actually over 500 pages. So Devil's Star, Vanity Fair, and then Dynasty, the rise and fall of the House of Caesar. So not many. And maybe that's just the way it is. That's why maybe I've read so many books so far this year. To be frank, that's probably why. So my nonfiction is at 1/3 of so far this year, which I'm not upset about because that's still a very significant part of my reading. And I'm very happy with that. When I have less nonfiction, I feel like I'm more unhappy as a reader. I feel like nonfiction is a good palate cleanser for me. Now, when you come down to the genres, I'm already very varied. I have by far obviously the most middle grade. That tends, not middle grade, classics. I always read a lot of classics. These tend to be very high for me. And so I've read 20 classics so far this year, which is 1 out of every 4 books, which is really good considering I read a lot of everything. Then for mysteries, I've read 19, which that's a lot as well. So 1 out of every 4 books. Historical books, children's books, I read tons of. And that's not even all the children's books because I read 10 middle grade books alone in March. So that's not an accurate number. I know that much. I've read a lot of the Bible books. I've read fantasy, which is a high number because of The Wizard of Oz and because of Magic Treehouse books. As always, those are going to be higher when I do books like that. Romance, crime, history, biography, young adult, all these things. It's just really interesting to see what I have been picking up. And it's very varied, which is interesting. Then when it comes to my most read authors, Anonymous, those are Bible books. And then Agatha Christie. So there's that. Mary Pope Osborne is always going to be there until I finished up, but I only have 3 books left. So after that, she'll be still at the top, but not quite. Joe Nosbo, who I've read 2 books from him so far. And then all these authors who I've read 2 books from because I'm in the middle of their series. Then the number of pages per month, which is interesting. I have read March books were low, considering everywhere else I was reading so much, as you can tell. But then my star ratings are interesting as well. So I have a lot of 4 stars. I have over 40 4-stars. And then I have 25 5-stars, and I counted them out, and I have only 10 new 5-stars, a lot of rereads, a lot of the Bible books I always give 5 stars to, a few 3 stars, and only 1 2-star, which was Tarzan. Worst book of the year so far, my friends, which is disappointing. And if we look at the books per month, which I also think is kind of interesting too. So in January, I read a total of basically 6,000 pages. So it was an incredible way to start off the year. I almost read a book a day, so 28 books in that month. And it was already very varied, as you can see, through the genres, which I found very interesting, and I find very interesting to track every month. Then going back up, I'm going to check out February with you. That one, I read a lot of books, so many, and it was just insane. I read 31 books in 28 days and 8,000 pages in the smallest month of the year. That was several months of readathon, or several readathons in the 1 month, and I did a lot of other reading priorities. So I just basically binged books, and I think March I walked into a little burnt out, and I am a little still burnt out, but I'm working my way back up. So yeah, a lot of books, and the genres were not that varied. I mean, they were, but not that much, which is interesting. Although I do think I stuck to my classics, I stuck to my mysteries, and that's where kind of I should have been more aware of what's coming up in March, because March, yes, I read 24 books, but there were a lot of small books. I read 10 middle grade, like I said. I also read 5 Bible books, which I don't really count as being long and difficult. I also only read 6 mysteries, and I just did not feel like reading. I actually managed almost 5,000 pages, which I did not realize. That's pretty incredible, because I didn't think I did that. But yeah, the genres here are like kids' books, classics, and fantasy, because of the kids' books I was reading. And I really loved the kids' books I was reading. That's where my 5 stars all came from, where kids' books except for 2 mysteries. And then my 4 stars and the 3 stars all went to, except for 1, they all went to mysteries. So I think that's where it went. And yeah, you can even see on my reading progress in March, that little chart down there. Not great. I feel like this is something I can look back on maybe early in January and track my records and see how I progress over the first 3 months of the year again. This is also something I can keep track of when I'm like, oh, I'm burning out. Maybe this is why again as well. I feel like this is something I can do to help myself stay focused on what I actually want to read, but also help protect myself from burning out on books that I do really love and enjoy, but maybe I'm just reading them too much, too fast. Maybe that's the problem. So that's something I wanted to share with you all. This is something I personally find really interesting for quarterly wise. I also would like to check up on just a few of my goals that I had been reading for and what kind of challenges I was doing. So for the book covered book club, I'm going to tell you, hopefully every time I do these, what books I read for the first 3 months of the previous 3 months. So for January, it was to read a book with a sun or stars on the cover. I put Death on the Nile, which is kind of cheeky in some ways, where one of the main character who's on the cover that I have, she's like pop culture star, but also there's the sun on there, which is a star as well. So however you want to take it. Then for February, which I also tweaked it to my advantage, it says to have a heart on the cover, and I did The Heart of Fire, which is an Agatha Christie book, which is right here. This diamond here is called The Heart of Fire, and it is technically the name The Heart, so that's what I used for that one. That book is The Mystery of the Blue Train by Agatha Christie. For March, it was to have a book with texture on the cover, and I chose As Good as Dead, which had like upgraded like duct tape on it that you could feel, but also it looked really creepy and really great. So for book 1 or January's book, I read for Agatha Christie's Travels, or book inspired by it, I read Death on the Nile. For one that she wrote that involves travel and romance, I read or The Mystery of the Blue Train, because it has a romance element, I would call it a little bit. Then for a book that Agatha Christie wrote abroad, I read After the Funeral. So for the Read Your Bookshelf Challenge by Chantel Reads All Day, for the first one was to have a quiet word in the title, and I read All the Quiet Places by Brian Thomas Isaac. That one was a really incredible book. Then for the second one, it was to have the word love in the title, and I read Starry Eyed Love by Helena Hunting. And then for the third prompt of March, which was to read a book with growth in the plot somehow, I read Brave New World by Aldous Huxley. It wasn't as growth promoting as I thought, but there was something in there, I'll say, a little bit. So for the Buzzwordathon this year as well, I also read for the first month the Who, What, Where, and Why and How books. I read When Chronic Pain and Illness Take Everything Away. This is by Esther Smith. And then I also read Great Quick Solve Whodunit Puzzles. And I also read It's Not What It Looks Like. This one's by Molly Burke. So I read 3 books for that. And then for a book with a pronoun in the title, I read The Story of My Life by Helen Keller and Never Let Me Go by Kazuo Ishiguro. And I also read Hooked on You by Kathleen Fuller. And then for a book with a location in the title, for March, I read The Souls of Lost Lake, which is by Jamie Jo Wright. And it comes out on the 5th, and you should check it out. And for the other challenge that I've been doing with the Serious About Series books, I have read and finished 2 series, one of which was the Magnolia Sisters. I finished that book off in January with one book being The Merriest Magnolia. And then I finished off the series of A Good Girl's Guide to Murder with As Good as Dead. Well, first of all, A Good Girl, Bad Blood, and then As Good as Dead in March. So I finished off 2 series so far this year. I've also made really good progress in the Magic Treehouse series, and I did make progress in the Wizard of Oz series. So I am making progress in several ones. I'm also caught up to date in this one, The Babysitter's Club, and I am excited to be making progress in a lot of series. I'm really prioritizing it. So that's kind of my quarterly update on my goals and my reading stats so far for this beginning part of the year, I should say. I feel like I am burning out, but I'm trying not to be burning out because March I really let myself take it easy, but that also meant I read so many great middle grade books, and I'm really happy about that. But that also meant I am kind of like wondering what I should pick up now in April to get back in the swing of things. So I'll be trying to take it easy again. But yeah, those are my stats. So please let me know down below if you'd like to see more of these. So I'll do one in July then, hypothetically. Or if you'd like to see a compilation of them all at the end of the year like last time. But that I think might be really big at this point. So anyways, I'd love to hear your thoughts. Also, if you enjoyed this video, please give it a thumbs up and subscribe if you're new here and you enjoyed this. Please leave a comment down below, and I'd love to say hi. Thank you so much for watching. Bye for now.